All right, welcome back to Problem Solver Politics. I am your host, Cardinellis, with Cody the Oracle.
Hey, everybody.
And it sounds a little bit crazy, but Andrew Yang actually wants to stop active shooter drills at schools. And the reasoning is, it actually sounds like a good idea. Cody, tell us what's going on.
Yeah, so I believe this was on the 4th. This would be about a day ago. Andrew Yang put this out, and he said, my son's school is holding 4 active shooter drills this year. The only clear impact of these drills is stress, anxiety, and confusion on the part of children and families. I would end the drills or make them optional. Let our kids learn the right things. So when I first read this, I agreed a little bit, but I remember we live in California. Yeah. Out in California, we have earthquake and fire drills.
We have everything drills.
Well, no, but when I was a kid, I legitimately probably did multiple times a year an earthquake and a fire drill.
Yeah,
now, for multiple. Me, when I think about it, earthquake and fire drills when I was a kid, we'd get under the desk for a few minutes if it was an earthquake drill, and they'd say, okay, kids, it's an earthquake. Okay, it's over. We're going to get up. We're going to walk in an orderly fashion to a certain point outside. We're all going to line up. We'll make sure we're all accounted for, and we'll turn around and walk back. And the kids, we would just joke around like, cool, no math today. We're doing a drill. That was so when I first read this, I'm like, why get rid of him? I could see it maybe being stressful if you really think about it, but why? I mean, I never thought like a fire was burning my school down. I just knew if a fire does come, we need to do something about it.
And then you also knew what destination you had to end up at so that the adults could come and collect you.
It was a drill. It was a practice. I mean, I didn't think so. Just digging into this, and apparently this has been a thing that's been Yang's championing it now, but it seems to have been a issue that's been discussed for a while.
Oh, you got to get to the meat and potatoes of this.
I'll get there. I'll get there. Hold on one second. 1 second. Okay.
You will see why he wants to get rid of these things, and it makes a lot of sense.
No, just give me 1 second. So here we go. Here's an article here from September of this year, September 7th, 2019. Article published in Forbes by a contributor, looks like a educator or a professor and publisher on constitutional educational issues. Anyway, here an article said, why schools should end active shooter drills immediately. Now, he starts with the kind of first thing that came to my mind as well, just referencing the fact that, I mean, in 20 years, basically 150 people total have died in shootings like this. So while they're tragic and we want to end them, it is important to reference. The odds are, you know what, it's morbid, right? But it's like one of those things like buy a lottery ticket, man. Like this doesn't happen to anyone. Like you had the worst luck ever.
Exactly.
This is like a really bad tragedy. So that makes sense. But even then, like, there was no earthquake when I was in school. I wasn't like, oh, no, we have to get rid of earthquake drills. However, I didn't, maybe some of you with kids or some of you working in these fields know better. Even as a reporter for a brief period of time, I covered one of these events, and I could see they brought all the people out, and it looked kind of serious. But I want to go through what some of these drills are actually like. Now, again, this isn't every school shooter drill or active shooter drill out there. This isn't what always happens. However, this is an account of one. This is, I believe, cited in an Atlantic article from earlier in the year. At 10:21 a.m. on December 6th, Lake Brantley High School in Florida initiated a code red lockdown. This is not a drill, a voice announced over the PA system. At the same moment, teachers received a text message warning of an active shooter on campus. Fearful students took shelter in classrooms. Many sobbed hysterically, others vomited or fainted, and some sent farewell notes. A later announcement prompted a stampede into the cafeteria as students fled the building and jumped over fences to escape. Parents flooded 911 with frantic calls, and later it was revealed that it was, even though the kids were told it wasn't a drill, this was a drill. It was the most realistic in a series of drills. So this is something else. This drill was so realistic. Kids that had been going through drills on a regular basis thought this was the real thing. Kids that have been doing drills thought it was real. And we're like, I mean, this is one of those
Who
things.
said yes to this?
Exactly.
Like, what? There are so many bureaucrats, from the top superintendent down to the mental health counselors, down to the principals, down to the assistant principals, down to the teachers. What groupthink led to the Bay of Pigs? Groupthink led to, this is why you can type in Florida man and your birthday, and there's some kind of just like criminal that shows up having done something heinous.
But isn't it when something someone mentioned here I thought was really interesting, and the author says, when schools don't tell students these drills are drills, it can be positively terrorizing. Of course, one doesn't have to look too far to find examples.
Stress.
Yeah.
A kid thought he was going to die.
Multiple. That was an issue that's recurring. And here's the thing, too, what's crazy about this. Again, going back to my just point of reference, When I was a kid, dude, they did not tell us the earthquake was here to kill us all and we're all going to die to an earthquake. They just said, hey, if one happens, hide here under the desk and then we'll meet outside. There wasn't this like drilling in your head like the fire is here to burn you all. It was just kind of like, if there's a fire, here's how we'll get through it together. And I get through different situations, and I mean, more kids probably have died due to, shootings in schools than earthquakes and fires. I get that. But still, while that was one way of taking it, one more example. One way of taking it too far is to not tell them it's a drill. Again, I couldn't imagine in the midst of other drills. There's one more worse one I'm getting to. So
okay.
Here's another example. This is from NBC News. NBC News reported that over the past 2 decades, the drills have ramped up in intensity, with some schools going so far as to use fake blood and fire blanks at students. A drill.
They're firing blanks with fake blood?
It gets
You're
worse.
not allowed to do that in haunted houses, by the way.
Oh, no, yeah.
It is against the law in Southern California for an actor to touch or indirectly touch. So you can't have blood spatter hit like somebody off of an actor. So they're doing things haunted houses have outlawed.
I got to get to the next bit because it gets further. A drill last month at an Indiana school prompted outrage when students were taken care of execution style with pellet guns entering them. Yes, pellet guns are
pellet guns?
I'm assuming I didn't look 100%. I'm assuming they're referencing something closer to a airsoft gun.
Oh, well, dude, I'll tell you this right now. We use airsoft rifles in action movies. They're so realistic looking. If you paint over the orange tip, it looks exactly like an AR-15.
But here's the thing, though. Here's the thing, right? If that's what it took to make sure that we could limit the stuff at schools, maybe there'd be an argument. But this is according to this one Forbes piece. There's other pieces I'll cite a little bit, all of the readings, so you guys can read more. But perhaps even more importantly, there's little to no evidence that even better designed drills do any good. According to James Allen Fox, the Lippman Family Professor of Criminal Justice at Northeastern, there is no evidence that a drill like this prepares people any better than in just instructing them verbally or in writing. I mean, and I think that's thing is really important. When I was a kid, like I said, getting back to my own little example here, when we were talking about fires and earthquakes, the idea was if a disaster happens, it could be bad. Here's our best way to get through it. Stay under your desk in an earthquake, and then we're going to meet up together, make sure everyone's okay. That was kind of their message there. They didn't, because trust me, man, if they wanted, they can make it, they could have made it look like the school was actually burning. Little anecdote. My high school, it was during the weekend. My high school actually did almost burn down in the wildfire. The wildfires actually were singeing the fences of the school, but it held. My point being is that they could have made it more dramatic. They could have told kids, this isn't a drill, there's a fire. They could have had fake smoke coming out of the roof and told kids there's actually a fire and we need to help people. The closest thing we got for that when I was a kid was we had a program called Every 15 Minutes in high school, and it was
where they faked they were dead.
And they would basically set up like a scene outside. They'd bring the kids out.
It was a drunk driving accident.
Yeah, they'd bring the kids out, and there'd be the car, and some students would put little like prosthetic on. It was pretty sad.
Yeah, they were basically showing the effects of drunk driving and just how many kids get killed nationwide, what percentage of population. Our school went pretty hardcore on it.
No, what they didn't do? What they didn't do was call the students together on Monday and then show a staged video and say, "Oh my God, you guys, one of your fellow students died in this tragic car accident," and then bring them out like Jerry Springer and say, "Actually, it was it's insane." Now, the idea is though, and I one of the things that's really interesting to me, and I'll go through it again. I'll pull up another thing. This is an article from NBC News. I did get it right. Active shooter drills are scaring kids and may not protect them. Some schools are taking a new approach, from calling them buddy room drills to making school psychologists available during the exercises.
Jeez.
Schools are trying to protect students physically and mentally. Again, and here's the thing. They're trying to protect these students. It reminds me a little bit. Right now, I get a lot of ads from Uber, and the Uber ads, my perspective is, don't worry, our employees won't attack you. Like, if our employee does attack you, there's a 911 number in the app. I'm like, dude, these are your employees. I appreciate that you're protecting me from your employees. This is the same thing as like they have the psychiatrist to protect these kids from the mental trauma of the drills.
It's like an
don't do
escort
the drills.
service.
You're mentally, these kids are like having. I mean, you're.
Could you imagine an escort service that said, like, if they go Lorena Bobbitt on you, we've got an insurance policy?
How about this? Heidi Lee Pottinger's 5-year-old son was at a football game last fall with his father when, following a touchdown, celebratory fireworks rocketed into the sky. Panicked by the popping sounds, the little boy turned to his dad and shouted, "Active shooter," with tears in his eyes.
Oh, that breaks my heart.
How does that help a 5-year-old? How does that help a 5? How does doing any of these things help people at all? And I think that's the problem. And again, let's get to it.
Well, the other thing is, if you're going to go that traumatic, like at this point, I'm thinking, take the 12-year-olds, the 6th and 7th graders, and just teach them how to use a gun. Because at this point, we've just jumped the shark so far. We might as well make a mini militia out of the 12-year-olds. You know what I'm saying?
That would be less traumatizing.
Like, I literally think the actual active shooter, fighting back with real bullets would be less traumatizing than this run for your life from the things we've outlawed in haunted houses.
Yeah. And then I mean, here we go. So we'll get to, before we get too long, just the idea. So Andrew Yang, he put forward, it's called the End Active Shooter Drills Policy. He references a lot of the same stuff. The likelihood of a public student being killed by a gun in school is less than 1 in 614 million. Yet 4.1 million students, 220,000 of which include children as young as 3. Again, why are we teaching 3-year? And again, even when we do drills like this, normally the drill is done in the way of like, look, these things are dangerous. Earthquakes are dangerous. But
yeah, it instills respect for the natural event.
And again, the drill isn't for how I'm going to survive the earthquake. The drill is for what I'm going to do before, during, and after with my class. They aren't trying to say, if here's how you suture up broken, here's how you splint your knee. It's the idea of like, we need to stay together so we don't lose each other. That's just the whole concept.
Yeah, exactly.
It seems like with these kids, they're drilling in their heads, someone's here to kill you. You have to hide, hope it doesn't find you.
And your chances are really slim unless you run. Yeah, it's like what is this, the Hunger Games? And then, where we know only one of you will survive, I
mean, like I said, in the way that one, it was one example, but just the fact that kids who had already done multiple of these drills got to one they thought wasn't a drill anymore and were freaking out. And the one that really got to me is like, normally, I know it's different for kids, but that seems to be that one kind of, when you get to the point where you're literally just like so anxious and nervous, you're vomiting, like that is like tell you what,
you're doing it wrong.
They sold it because these kids 1,000% believe them during the middle of this. Anyway, so Yang's talking about doing, because again, is he going to ban them? Like, what is he going to do? So here's what he's going to do. As president, I will work with the Department of Education and public school system to examine our increased use of active shooter drills, allow school districts and parents to determine whether drills are appropriate. That's the biggest one. I think if they reach out to parents ahead of time, because here's the thing, if we wanted to watch a Disney movie that was kind of old and had some iffy stuff in it, my parents had to sign a permission slip saying, hey, here's the thing.
Yeah.
I believe not even Disney. I think it was when I was in high school. I was 9th, 10th grade. It wasn't 7. We read, I believe it was The Color Purple. I think it was the name of it.
Yeah. The Whoopi Goldberg movie.
Same thing. We read the novelization, or whatever came first. Or maybe another one. Anyway, they sent a letter to every kid's parents saying, here's the thing our kids are going to read. Here's some of the graphic things in it. Here's what could be inappropriate if you decide.
Well, that was back when educators, was back.
My point being, though, is the parents were given the opportunity to sign off on, do I want my kid to read this book? Apparently, parents aren't given the opportunity to sign off on, do I want my kid in the middle of a simulated war zone that they are taught to believe is 100% real and they're going to die? Do I want my kids sending me text messages saying some's here at my school with a gun to kill me?
Goodbye, Mom, I love you.
As a drill. It's like, why do they have to send a letter home saying, hey, we're going to show your kids The Mask. Is that appropriate? Why do we get the movie with Jim Carrey? They'll send you a permission slip for that. Hey, we're going to douse your kid's teacher in fake blood during a mock execution. Maybe they did in those specific instances. I don't know all the facts, but I do think if this isn't common practice already, that the districts are interacting with parents saying, hey, here's what we're doing for these drills. Ramping up the intensity of drills till you just get to like the dress rehearsal where you tell them it's real is insane. And then finally, invest more resources into the public school system to foster a more positive environment while investing in mental health and counseling services. Because again, what do you think is the root cause of this? I know it's a little bit controversial, but whatever. I'm going to say it. I say the same thing every single time. Everyone has, and that's why I don't clown on people for it. Everyone has, whenever anything traumatic happens, their knee-jerk reaction of what they think shouldn't be. I always ask the same question. Why are the kids shooting the schools, man? What's happening there? Why are they doing it?
Everybody always wants to outlaw the gun instead of asking the question is, why is it the schools that get hit?
One little anecdote before we go too long. Back when there used to be this concept of going postal, it's you know what I mean, but like what they did was they took a look at what was happening inside the post offices, what these people's working conditions were. Workplace violence used to be a massive issue in this problem. I wasn't alive, 1970s, I believe, 1970s, 80s, the idea of workplace violence was kind of,
it was a real deal.
From what I understand, it was almost how we look at school violence. Workplace violence just was that then. It was largely solved by looking at workplaces, and they said, if you have people in the essentially Not inhumane as far as like dirty or unkempt, but inhumane as far as specifically for the post office.
The reason why Foxconn is installing all of the safety nets so people can't commit suicide off of their buildings was something we had to look at within the Postal Service.
Oh yeah, like just a little anecdote. I believe the one thing they found in Postal Service was there was a lot of employees doing stressfully repetitive tasks.
Yes.
For extended period of time, no breaks. Just, boom, 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 boom for 9 hours. And they found that leads to, anyway, my point being is I love seeing Angie Jane talking about, we need to get into the schools, figure out what is wrong. Because how crazy is this that one of his goals is to stop traumatizing children? Yeah. These drills aren't even necessary, and they're traumatizing children. Like I said, by the way, this article talks about how they're ramping up the psychiatrists to protect kids from the mental stress of the drill. It's insane.
No, this is also conservative parenting 101. The hilarious part is he's asking for the ability to be notified and opt out. And in California, they've taken away the ability for parents to opt out of, like, for example, certain aspects of sexual education, things like that, because the view about children has shifted from the government thinking, oh, they're your kids, you know what I'm saying, and you have the choice and the right as a parent to opt out of our class, to saying, no, they're our kids and you don't have the right to take them out of our education. You know what I'm saying?
Well, and then how about this also? You think about, we have a climate and culture. I was going to get your mention in a second. Andrew Yang references that 32% of teenagers have some kind of anxiety disorder, and then 22% have some kind of other mental disorder. Dude, 1 in 3 kids has an anxiety disorder, and you're staging mock shootings at your school. But you see what I mean?
Like, I don't know whether to cry or to laugh, to be honest with you.
It's
tragic. Just like, it breaks your heart, but it's so asinine and stupid at the same time. You almost can't help but laugh. It's like, this literally is like a script you write for a movie to make funny and like launch the career of a child actor. Like Home Alone, if you think about it, like a child actually having to fend off a breaking and entering case because
Home Alone,
his parents,
but not funny and tragic and terrifying.
If you actually think about the premise of Home Alone, you're like, that is a really heartbreaking premise, that a kid was left by his parents
because no one noticed them.
Because nobody noticed him, and then he had to fend off 2 robbers trying to literally end his life in a building. Now, it was a John Hughes flick, so it was funny. Yeah. But this is literally like, it's tragic, and somebody needs to have a civil lawsuit against them for doing this, and then some producer needs to step up and buy the rights to this and make a John Hughes comedy out of it, because I can't believe I'm hearing this.
It almost reminds me of, there's a trauma film called, I think, The Class of Nukem High, and it's just, if you're familiar with trauma films, it was really absurd 70s, 80s kind of exploitation films, but there's just crazy things happen at this high school, just absolutely crazy. And this almost sounds like one of the things that happened in a movie like that, where it's like, oh my God, we're all gonna die. Never mind, just a drill. But you said it wasn't a drill. So again, what happens? That one incident just said, but what happens next time they say this isn't a drill, and kids say, well, it was a drill last time. I already had my I thought I'm going to die experience when they said it wasn't a drill last time. But anyway, the last thing I wanted to reference, the last awful, dirty figure you always have to get to when talking about stuff like this, the money. According to Andrew Yang, $3 billion being spent annually on school security, and drills could be going, so that money could be going towards other things. $3 billion on school security. Wow. And drills are part of it. Again, and this is where I know these people's jobs, and I commend the entrepreneurial angle of these people, but these are companies. The county... This is what happens. We have to do something about this. So the county says, fine, we have to run school shooter drills. The school districts don't do these, so they go to outside third-party companies. I think part of these really bad ones you hear, there's some companies, but remember, like
These are like ex-stuntmen in Hollywood that just like, we're looking for a different job or something.
Not even that. It doesn't cross our minds a lot.
No offense to stuntmen, you're great guys.
But depending on your profession, they will actually do for you. I mean, let's say you're working for a private company that is doing business in some conflict zone, and they're going to have you go to this new place to work. They have these mock things where they'll set up fake war zones and say, hey, look, when you're, setting up the oil pipeline and you get attacked by people trying to steal from us, this is what it's going to look like. This is what's going to sound like. I mean, they run them through these things. But again, these are adults who know what they're preparing for, and they're going into something. These aren't kids who are having this thing sprung on them. And even within these things, when they're adults who know what they're doing, they'll spring little things on them here and there. Hey guys, we're gonna go over here and have lunch. Just kidding. A bunch of people broke in and they're trying to take you hostage, right? And they're trying to scare you and show you it could happen anytime. All that stuff. So maybe what's happening is sometimes these districts just go to contract somebody. The people they contract are like ex-special forces guys who are trying to train businessmen how to not get kidnapped when they're doing business in China. And then what we come up with is the one bit that absolutely just beyond me, I think it's right here. The teachers were shot execution style with pellet guns, leaving them injured. What? Who? I hope there was somebody there when it was happening who realized, wow, this was an awful idea. Like witnessing it happen in front of them, realizing,
and I'm actually
this is
glad
really bad. We should not have done this.
Yeah, I'm actually glad that didn't happen in some rural school in Texas, where some dad that sees a dude whip out a pellet gun and thinks that
Indiana.
it's a legit Winchester didn't just pull out his concealed carry and ice that cat. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, anyway, I can't believe what I'm hearing. Let us know what you guys think.
Maybe, you know what? One thing I will say, I think AJ is right. We should stop these drills, man. Holy cow! I don't think they're helping people. I think it's just scaring and traumatizing people. I think he's right. I think he's right, man.
Yeah, it's crazy. So anyway, let us know what you guys think. Comment below. Let's keep the conversation going. Make sure you tune in on Discord. Give us your opinion on Discord. We'll have the link to the server inside of the description below. And always make sure that you follow us on Twitter. That's how we announce the videos. And also, you guys give us a lot of leads and ideas on other video content. This is Problem Solver Politics. We will see you guys in the next video.